Assalamualaikum and hi. Today I and my teammates will be presenting our hypothesis on the research of the history, status, figure and use of English in our choosing country, which is the Philippines. We have conducted some research that consists of the lexical, phonological and grammatical features of the Philippines English usage in contrast to its cultural setting. We also conducted 2 interviews with 2 speakers from the Philippines as authentic language sample, and we have compared the sample with the lexical, phonological and the grammatical features that we have discovered. For the first question, we will ask the speaker's reaction towards the expanding power of English locally and globally in their respective country, which is the Philippines. As we all know, the English language is widely used and has become the world's universal spoken language. The Philippines is one of the countries in Asia that is known to be the largest English-speaking nation as published by the English Council. After doing some reading, we have read an article from the Manila Times written by Vadarama 2019. She said that the Philippines fell from 40 place in 2018 to 20 place in 2019, shows in English Proficiency Index, EPI. EPI measures the average level of English language skill based on the result of an online standard English test, SET, administered by English Proficiency Education First, a Swiss-based global company focusing on language, academic, cultural exchange and educational sharing programs. This shows that the EPI result is significant because the Philippines has been known as one of the best English-speaking countries in Asia, and their English proficiency is one of its strengths that has helped manage the economy and even make the country the top voice outsourcing destination in the world.
Moreover, for the second statement, which is history, development, influence and current progress or use of English language at the speaker's respective country. So based on this statement, I have found that the Philippines is ranked second in Asia in their English proficiency score in 2021. So according to Business World in 2021, Philippines improved their English proficiency index by making English an important language for them, as it is necessary and compulsory for their daily tasks such as making presentations at work, understanding the television, and reading newspapers. This shows that the Filipinos are exposed to English on a daily basis, which is one of the main factors that cause them to be fluent in English, thus improving their English proficiency score and rank 18 overall in the whole wide world. So this is the hypothesis that I got for this statement.
The Filipinos' English-speaking ability ranges from a smattering of words and phrases through basic comprehension to near-native mastery. It arises the question of the elements or features of localized version of English or the variety of English found at the speaker's country in terms of phonological, grammatical, and lexical. Because of these linguistic differences, it is given that there will be some differences or changes in how they utilize the language in their country. As quoted by the Oxford University Press, Philippine English has developed a vigorous literature. It is in the process of standardization, with the variety no longer marked by regional accent associated with regional languages, but a converging variety that originates in Manila. These forms are propagated largely through the school system, the mass media and tourism. Though the usage of the English language is common in the Philippines, due to those factors, it is still different from the standard English in English-spoken countries. This question is prominent as the process affects the English linguistic features of phonology, the literacy meaning of some lexical words, and grammar usage where the slight difference of English Philippine compared to the standard English is evident.
In addition, for the fourth statement is that how do the speakers characterize their own relation to English, such as the localized version of English and other native languages in their family's repertoire. I have found that the Filipinos are exposed to the English language from an early age, thus some of them are even neglecting their own mother language. So according to Martin 2018, she stated that she encountered some kids in her hometown, which is in Manila, Philippines, who only spoke English fluently, and their mastery of the Filipino language was the same to those people who had learned it as a second language. So to communicate with these kids, she needed to speak in Taglish, a hybrid of Filipino and English, and the author also mentioned that in her hometown, she grew up in a norm that one must speak both English and Filipino fluently. She also mentioned that the Filipino kids grow up and learning English at the early age, as the national curriculum requires English classes starting from the first grade. In brief, many Filipinos can speak English as they are exposed on an early age, thus almost neglecting their own local languages as they are prioritizing English more.
It is already known that the Philippines was once colonized by other large nations like the US and Spain. Due to this, the implementation of the English language was inevitable. It could be that not all Filipino citizens are able to write or converse fluently in English because of their different backgrounds and social skills, and thus could be one of the reasons why discrimination against one another exists. According to an article discussing about English speakers in the Philippines by David, 2019, he stated that many Tagalogs who know fewer languages and are accustomed to people adapting to them feel frustrated when inconvenienced to speak in another language. Both English and other Philippine languages are threats to their monolingual comfort zone. This writer proves my previous statement because despite being in the same ethnic group, there is still a difference in the mindset of an individual stance regarding the English language and others that are not Tagalog. So, these are all of our findings on the relations of the English language and the Philippines. Now, let's view our interview sessions with two native Filipinos in order to further strengthen our claims.
So, hello everyone. This is the first interview clip, and under the course Variety of English, course code ENG2063, I am Sheena.
I'm Sabrina.
And the two of us will be interviewing our friend here, Chris. So, hi Chris, can you introduce us briefly about yourself?
Okay, thank you, Shida. So, hello everyone. My name is Christian Alburo, and I am from Philippines, in the southernmost archipelago, which is Mindanao, in the city of General Santos. And I am here to answer their questions regarding on this topic.
Okay, Chris. So the first question is, what are your thoughts about the usage of English language that is gradually getting common in the Philippines?
Okay. So my thoughts about the English language that is getting common here in the Philippines is that it's not really that surprising. Why? Because English has been a part of our official language here in the Philippines, with more than most of the population here in the Philippines who speaks English with some degree of fluency in the language. So to me, it's not really that surprising that English is getting more common because it's already common here in the Philippines.
Alright, moving on to the next question. I have found that through the use of English in official affairs has affected the use of English as a whole in your respected country, which is the Philippines. So how do you perceive the linguistic changes as a Filipino?
Okay, so with that being said, in the first question, I said that English has been one of the official language in the Philippines, right? So with that being said, Philippines is also like experiencing a period of like language convergence of some sort, because it's borrowing of like large languages such as Tagalog, English, or other local dialects and languages here in the Philippines, right? Okay, so with that being said, like for me, example, I am a Bisaya, but he is also learning English and Tagalog. So in the process, I think for better and worse, some languages are about to be abandoned or getting extinct because of these large languages, or in the pop culture that English is always in use, which is kind of dangerous since it is our language and it's being like overpowered with another foreign language in here, and it's slowly getting extinct or some sort.
I understand. So That's quite unfortunate to hear. But we're going to move on to the third question. And for this question, I actually divided it into three sections. So we're going to start with phonological. So there are localized version of English in terms of phonological, which is the pronunciation. So Sabrina will be showing you three words, and can you pronounce it for me?
Okay. So, aeroplane, and squirrel, and pancake.
Oh, I see. So there's not much of a difference than what I thought.
Oh, wait. Okay. But that's because that I am English oriented since childhood. Okay. But perhaps should I dictate or impersonate local Filipinos instead?
Sure.
Okay. So for the first word, what most of Filipinos here pronounce airplane is actually airplane, like that, airplane. And as for the second word, squirrel, it's actually squirrel. Like they really, how could I say? They really highlighted that letter R, like R. Like they usually had a strong R, like squirrel. And as for the third word, pancake, they usually have that strong C because it's pronounced as pancake. Like they don't really say cake. They like cake. It's like it's replaced the E. No, it's replaced the A to letter E instead with no C but only T-E-K.
I see. So they
Like
really
that.
emphasize each word, each syllable. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's very interesting to know. So we're going to move on with the lexical, which is the vocabulary. So I found that there are some English words that brings another meaning. For example, I'm going to give you one example in my country. Here in Malaysia, we say the word crocodile, you know, the reptile, as not as an animal, but it also brings another meaning, which means a playboy. And I found out that in your country, crocodile means corrupted politician. Am I correct?
Yes, corrupt politicians. Well, mostly here in the Philippines, we sometimes call it crocodile.
Mm-hmm.
But that only is used to, the ones who are very English oriented. But to the majority of the Filipinos, we usually call it as buaya or buaya sa gobyerno, which is usually translated the crocodile in the government.
Mm.
With that being said, it's usually means like the corrupt politicians who took money from the citizens.
I see. Actually, buaya is crocodile here in my country too. So, can you give me like other examples for Filipino or English words that brings another meaning in your country?
Wait. Okay. Yes. Boodle fight. The word boodle fight. Okay. So in the English definition, like boodle fight is somewhat negative, right? It's more of like some kind of like in the army or like something fighting with guns, etc. But in here in the Philippines, what it defines is that it's a gathering with a huge table where they put banana leaves and they put food in there. You see, this usually happens in festivals and sometimes in beaches. So there's a huge gathering, and then people will put much food there in the table with no plates whatsoever. They use banana leaves. And then the first part is that the announcer will like announce the opening of like the food ceremony, and then I will actually pray. And after that, whoever finishes the food first that is served in the table wins.
Ah,
It's usually like happens every festival or party or sometimes gatherings in the beaches, and it usually happens every night. It's actually very fun. And also if you do happen to visit here in the Philippines during nighttime in beaches, you should try them because Filipinos are really open when it comes to these kinds of things. I can assure you that.
oh, That's very interesting. I didn't know it has, very different meaning to compared to the English word. So, yeah, when I visit Filipino, maybe I'll try that. It's very interesting. It's very festive. Okay, so moving
Yes,
on,
indeed.
the third section of the question is grammatical. So, I found that there are lots of singular inflection of verbs. So I'm gonna give you like an example of a sentence. So here goes. One of the boys gave a report to the teacher every morning. So if you notice in the sentence that I just said, the loss of singular inflection in the verb, which is give, is absent. So have you ever
Yes.
noticed any grammatical error that Filipinos always do?
Okay. So, okay, thank you. But there are a lot of grammatical errors here in the Philippines. And I'm just gonna cite one, which is very funny and common error here in the Philippines. Uh, it's the difference of your and your. Uh, the other your that I need is like the contraction of you are.
Ah,
It's so funny because these, yeah, it's so funny because they are all similar, the way they dictate it, that sometimes other people like, okay, so I think this is the correct one. Oh, no, 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 that's the correct one. No, no, no. And they create an argument of which one is correct or not. Although it's very obvious that the word your is it's just like a combination or like a contraction of both words you are. And even today, people still argue in that.
oh, so I see. Well, I'm glad that you actually noticed the grammatical error there, given that, because most of the locals that you said claim that they are even argue about that. So I'm very glad that you noticed about the grammatical errors.
Yes. Alright.
Yeah.
Next question is that how does your family implement the usage of your mother tongue language and English in your household? Do they often use English daily or only on certain occasions?
Okay. That is a good question. Okay. Here in my family, this household, uh, we usually do it 50-50, like 50% local language and 50% English language. Or sometimes we mix it all together. And due to the pop culture here in the Philippines, which is widely English, like for example, in Facebook and Twitter, or sometimes in YouTube, Filipinos tend to write something in English but not in local language. That's why most Filipinos are like, you know, uh, very open to foreigners, and foreigners easy to understand them. So that's why. And regarding to the question, mm, it's like uh, a mix of them, both the mother language and the English language. And we commonly say it like for most of the times, not just in occasions, like for most of the times, even when we dine or when we sleep or just when good talk. We sometimes use English or sometimes use a local language, which is Bisaya. So it varies in both languages.
Hmm. So,
Alright.
what about your family? Your family, teach you to speak in English from a young age or something?
Well, yes, like not my family is like the ones who like molded me and taught me how to speak English very well, next to schools and the modern media,
Mm.
just like Twitter or Facebook.
Mm.
So it really does have a huge difference when family or parents that are fluent in English, the like the children, how can I say that? Uh, like the children really like looks up to their parents and then taught them English naturally, as long as the parents are very fluent in English.
So,
That's interesting.
uh, so, this is the last question for today. So, the question is there any prejudices or stereotypes directed to the locals in country who are not fluent in English? Because for example, in my country, there are stereotypes to those who cannot speak English. So maybe there are something similar in
Ah,
country.
yes, there are. I mean, in here, it varies per community. In the middle class or higher up communities, when you don't speak English, it's like they would see you as a failure of some sorts. Yes, they can be really harsh sometimes, but yes, it's actually true and it's happening here in the Philippines. But when it comes to like the poorer or in the lower communities, when you don't know how to speak English, it's not like normal for them. But there's a twist. If you will like speak English fluently, there is like the people there in the poor or in the lower communities will actually see you as like if you're someone part or like somehow part of the higher up communities or some sorts. And yes, they would really give you a very good impression, like, oh, good, this guy is very good at English. Wow, like that kind of impression.
Wow, it's actually great, to have a positive stereotype because there are some countries that stereotype maybe like people who don't speak English very fluently as, someone poor or someone that is not educated. But to hear that there are, not common negative stereotypes there, but, positive stereotypes toward those who can speak English is actually good because there are in some cases, people think that people who speak English fluently are, boastful, they are just trying to show off. So yeah, I'm very happy to hear that from you. And
Well, okay, so there are some things too. There are actually people here who just wants to boast or like want to be uh, like want
arrogant.
to show the world that they are really good at English. Yeah, those kinds of persons. They actually exist here too. But uh, in for that for that situation, they're usually seen as like they're like, wait, who is this guy? Like that kind of impression.
Ignore them.
Yeah, we just literally ignore them, and sometimes we made fun of them. Actually,
Mm,
yeah, if you're here in the Philippines, you usually see those who like want to like boast their English skills as if they were good enough, although they were not. We'll just turn into memes instead. And for some reason, they usually made fun of it through Facebook, which is there are a lot of them actually.
mm-hmm.
Green energy. I understand it very clearly. So
Yeah.
with that being said, it marks the end of our interview. So I would like to say thank you to Chris for, willing to be interviewed by us. And yeah, I'm very grateful for your help. So thank you very much. Do you have anything to say, Sabrina?
I think you have concluded very well, and I think I want to thank to Chris too for joining our interview session.
So yeah, thank you, Chris. Bye.
Yes,
Bye.
thank you for that time. I really appreciated it.
Yeah.
So goodbye.
Hello everyone. So today we'll be doing the second interview session for our English in Variety assignment under the code ENG2063. My name is ALYA FARISYA and this is my group partner and my name is Afrina. And so this is our interviewee. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is JAZLAN from the and I am a senior high school student. I studied in Hiporlos National Trade School.
Alright, thank you Adrian for your introduction. So I think we'll be moving on to the first question. So my first question to you is, what are your thoughts about the usage of the English language that is gradually getting common in the Philippines?
Okay. The Philippines is recognized globally as one of the largest English-speaking nation within a majority of its population, having at least some degree of fluency in the language. English has always been one of the official languages of the Philippines, and it is spoken by more than 14 million Filipinos. It is the language of commerce and law, as well as the primary medium of instruction and education.
That's very So the next question is, so the second question is, I have found that through the use of English in official affairs has affected the use of English as a whole in your respective country. So how do you perceive the linguistic changes as a Filipino?
With the rise of technological advancement in the country, more and more students today have a hard time using Filipino language in oral and written communication because of particular sense and practical use of discussion pertaining to modern education and lifestyle. It is easier for me to understand English because it is used everywhere compared to some Filipino words. I cannot understand deep Filipino words. For example, a conference room. The Philippine translation is agop. It is not usually used. Yeah.
Okay, so we will be moving on to the third question, and for this question we will be talking about three parts. So the first part is there are localized versions of English in terms of the first part is phonological, which is pronunciation. So we will show you some flashcards for you to pronounce. So this is the flashcard. Can you see this?
Yes. Okay. Airplane. An airplane. Okay. A squirrel. A squirrel. Pancake. Pancake.
So the next part is lexical, which is vocabulary. I found that there are some English words that actually brings another meaning. So I'll give you an example. In Malaysia, the word crocodile or buaya actually holds a different meaning here, which means it actually means playboy, or like for guys, yeah, particularly. And we found out that the same word crocodile in the Philippines actually means corrupted politician. So, do you have any instances that maybe you know of when it comes to vocabulary?
Yeah, I have one example. Okay, a middle name here. If you're gonna talk about the other country about a middle name, they're gonna give you their second name Pauline Shane. They're gonna give you the second name. Here in the Philippines, if you're gonna ask me, what is your middle name? I'm gonna give you the mother family name of mine. I'm gonna give you the surname of my mother because it's our middle name here. Like example, my name is Egeline, and then my middle name is my mother's family name, which is Raz. Then after that, we're gonna put it the family mother's family name, which is Paduan. The history of Spanish in American colonization in the Philippines has led the Filipino naming convention to be heavily influenced by both Spanish and Western practices. Filipino names follow the Spanish tradition of using both paternal and maternal surnames while structuring names according to Western name according of the first name, middle name, and surname. Filipino naming convention arrange name as the follows. My name, which is JAZLAN, my mother's family name, which is the middle name, called the middle name, my mother's family name, then after that, the father's family name. For example, Edgeline Brad Padwal.
Okay, that was very interesting, and you even added in on why it is so. That's very interesting. Thank you for that. Okay, so for the last part, for the third question is for grammatical. It's the loss. We found out that in the Philippines there is a loss of singular inflection of verbs. So I think an example that I can give you is one of the boys give a report to the teacher every morning. So like from the example that I just gave, you can see that there's the absence of the letter S for the word give. So have you noticed any grammatical error that Filipinos always do?
Yes, there is also. Okay. Placing yes word is the middle of the sentence. So when the meaning is until now or so far. Yet, in the context above, should always be placed at the end of the sentence. For example, my secretary hasn't emailed me her technical report. Then, I noticed that Filipinos, on the other hand, place it in the middle of their sentence, right after the verb. For example, my secretary hasn't or has not yet emailed me her technical report.
Alright, that's very interesting. Thank you for that. So we move on to the next question. So how does your family implement the usage of your mother tongue in language and English in your household? So it's like, do they often use English daily or only during certain occasions?
Okay. They always teach us those words during certain occasions. It is only used when there is an important issue, rarely used in my family household. Then language and mother tongue also play a huge role in development of a personal, social, and cultural identity. Children with a strong foundation in their first language often display a deeper understanding of themselves and their place within society, along with an increased sense of well-being and confidence. Naturally, this flows down into every aspect of their lives, including their academic achievements.
I think what we just said could be almost the same as what we face in Malaysia. So the last question to you is, are there any prejudices or stereotypes directed to the locals in your country who are not fluent in English?
Yeah, there is. The country uses the English language as an international language for communication, and because of the majority of the population has a degree of fluency. But not most people from the other countries know that English learners from the Philippines are also facing difficulties in learning to speak English. Some Filipinos cannot speak or write English at all times. Those groups of people are what we call indigenous people or indigenous group. This is the group of people from the tribes or people that live in the mountains and village. Also, the adults, parents who haven't had the opportunity to go to school during their time, and children who are in a poor family.
Okay, I think that was very interesting. So, yes, so we are finally at the end of the interview session for interview number 2. Thank you again. Thank you so much, Ezra, for your time and for your efforts to give us your own input, for your own knowledge, and talk about more about your own country. It was very fun to
Thank you so much. Oh, thank you.
See you guys. Okay, bye. See you soon.
Bye.
To conclude, all of our findings and research are proven to be indeed true and more based from our interviews. We find it very interesting and compelling to be able to learn all of this new knowledge and information not only from the internet but also to understand this particular topic from the native's point of view.